Welcome to Cage Minds Uncensored. I'm Micah Frankel. Hope you enjoyed a lot of great fights this weekend. If you didn't, we're here to go over them. But first off, I want to start out with a great joke I heard. Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, man, they just keep cracking you up. This newest level of cracking up, at least this one, is funny. Not kind of homicidal or horrendous like the last acts we heard Conor McGregor involved with. Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor have been discussed for a part 2. Floyd Mayweather has said if he'll fight again, it's going to be inside of the UFC octagon. So they've discussed the potential now of a special rules matchup. Essentially, 4-ounce gloves, in a cage, no shoes, no kicks, no elbows, no grappling, maybe some clinching. So we're talking about a boxing match in the octagon. That's a good joke. Really, people are still interested in this. As much as I kind of am sickened by it, disgusted by it, people are still interested in Conor McGregor. People are still interested in Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. Conor had the audacity to step over to boxing, had the courage to do it. It's only right that if we do see a part 2, roles would be reversed. Floyd needs to come all the way over to a full-blown mixed martial arts fight. I understand it's not his world. Boxing was not Conor's world. That would be the risk of it. That's the only way I'd want to see them fight again. Now, also going around the rumor mill and being speculated about, and we can't really confirm how serious these speculations are, but it appears that Fox is parting ways with the UFC, that Fox is done with the UFC, and that the newest rumors say that the UFC will be being broadcasted somewhere between NBC and ESPN. Those rumors include some interesting quirks, that the 165-pound division will be added. Hallelujah, can't wait to see that. Small 170ers, big 155ers, it's what I dream of. That'd be a great division. Also the addition of the women's atomweight division, that'd be another great division. Amber Brown, you let Michelle Waterson go back to her natural weight class. Soho Ham, who was in the UFC before, who is running things over in Japan as an atomweight. Those women, that would be great. Like both of those. Love the thought of the rumor that the pay-per-views would go from 12 to 6. We don't need one every month. You make a mega card every other month. You get bigger buy rates. You still keep up your number of fight nights. Also, that the Contender Series, the Tuesday Night Contender Series, will replace the Ultimate Fighter. I love that. I think we're hitting just a point in society where we're kind of over the reality TV, and especially in the mixed martial arts world. Stripping these guys from their families, from their camps, 6 weeks in isolation, just to film a reality show that really fights happen a lot quicker. The Tuesday Night Contender Series, a much better idea. Love that idea with Dana White. His show, Tuesday nights, you give those prospects a top opportunity, not like LFA and Access TV and most of those lower grade promotions that we have on Fight Pass. It's not like they aren't doing it already, but if you need still that one more show, I'd rather see the Contender Series and see live fights, a nice little main card every week than force-feeding us another Ultimate Fighter show. It was interesting when some of the coaches and rivalries were new, and now a lot of it just feels forced. 27 seasons into it, several attempted international spin-offs. I think the Ultimate Fighter has ran its course. I'd love to see that with this deal also, that ESPN or NBC would be your home for at least just the main cards. Maybe have prelims on one and main card on another, but I'd love to see both of them just be homes for main cards, and they split up their fight nights. You have your UFC on ESPN, you have your UFC on NBC, you have those different fight nights, and those are home for the main card, and we put the prelims all on UFC Fight Pass. I think that would be beautiful ideas, and I like the direction of where we're going. Those are just rumors, though, so we'll pay attention to that, because this whole network negotiations, where will the UFC be broadcast in 2019? Obviously, it's a hot button issue. Can't wait to see where it goes, like where the talks have been heading. Now let's talk about some fights. This past weekend, the Paramount Network, Bellator 197 in St. Charles, Missouri. We got the full results up at cageminds.com. I'm talking about some dominant decisions, including a guy, Derek Anderson, that you've seen on the main card a couple times, a couple quick finishes. Heck, an Ultimate Fighter vet picked up a win on the prelims. If you've not checked those out, check out the results at cageminds.com. Now we have the main card to talk about. Baby Slice, he's got his daddy's power and 10 times the ground game. Clips Devin Brock with a big right hand off the top of the head, left side of Brock's head. Follows to the ground, mounts Brock. Brock eventually gives the back, rear naked choke. Baby Slice, this fight was at 160 pounds. Depending on if Bellator also wants to go in that 165 division, that could be Ferguson's home. He started, I believe, at a catch weight of 175 in his first fight, so he's making that way down to lightweight. I'm not sure if that's fully his plan, but it is positive if he is going to drop, maybe stay at 165 if they have that weight class in Bellator, that Ferguson carries that power, that he's had it in each of his fights, heavy-handed. It's a real benefit for him that he's carrying it, and again, that ground game, 10 times what his father had, a great win. Logan Storley shows off a bunch of ground game and just grinds out Joaquin Buckley, the training partner for Robbie Lawler. Logan Storley, a big victory there in his Bellator main card debut. You have AJ McKee showing off some great low kicks and a tremendous jab and taking a unanimous decision from his toughest test, former RFA featherweight champion, Ultimate Fighter alum Justin Lawrence. Lawrence was just beaten to the punch, and even though he was able to back down McKee, he wasn't able to land with great efficiency. In the main event, Brandon Gertz, on short notice, does not do much against Michael Chandler. Chandler pokes Gertz in the eye. Gertz goes with a low blow. You end up then having Michael Chandler determined to take this fight to the ground, and I believe that was caused by comments made by Gertz in lead up to the short notice fight. Gertz has said the difference in this fight would be the fact that he was working with Chandler's former grappling coach, Neil Melanson. Well, Chandler said, determined to take this fight to the ground. A big overhand into the takedown, slams Gertz down. It turns out that Gertz separates his shoulder when he hits the ground. He has his left arm up. Chandler lands in side control, but not your traditional side control. They're not chest to chest. It was Chandler's stomach to Gertz's stomach, so they're a little weird in the ride. Gertz is able to snake, has his left arm pushed straight up in the air, and it's under the left arm of Chandler. Chandler's not able to make connection with punches, but Chandler finally snakes his arm around, and that sets up where Gertz's arm that's straight up is right next to the neck of Chandler. Perfect head and arm choke position. Michael Chandler, the most submissions in Bellator history, and continues marching on now. Hopefully, we'll see that rematch between Chandler and Brett Primus, who, for some reason, Chandler will not mention his name. I guess this is a deeper rivalry and a little more personal irk than any of us could have imagined for what Bellator is doing. Michael Chandler, though, dominant win against the short notice replacement. That leads us over to Saturday night. The UFC was in Glendale, Arizona for UFC on Fox 29. You had on the UFC Fight Pass prelims, Alejandro Pettis start the night off, stuffing takedowns, and then being able to just outstrike and clobber Matthew Lopez, put Lopez on the cage, hit him with a pair of knees, and then was able to strike to the finish. Lauren Muller escapes from her bout with Shanna Dobson with a decision victory. Muller, some power shots in the second round, nice takedowns in the third round. I actually don't agree with the judges in this one. I thought that the boxing, the jab, the head movement, I thought that Dodson was really able to control the fight for the first two rounds. It wasn't until she got put on her back in the third that she was in trouble, but you know judges. Gilbert Burns, the four-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, shows off his heavy hands. Right cross, right uppercut, big flurry, and another right uppercut leads to a walk-off knockout victory over Dan Moret. Brad Tavares finds a finish of Krzysztof Jotko in the third round. The first two rounds, it was combinations, it was volume, it was leg kick. Jotko in the third round finally found his offense. but left his chin hanging out off of a big uppercut, got tagged with the right hand by the Hawaiian. John Moraga is able to take a close decision victory from Wilson Hess. Hess had the takedowns, but did very little with it. In the first 2 rounds, it was Moraga, his boxing, his combinations. Those were the more effective, damaging scoring shots that accounted for winning the rounds, as Hess did not take advantage of having the fight where he wanted it. Muslim Sakayev, the king of Kung Fu, put on a show as he wanted to do. A big right hand over the top of a Ricky Rainey jab sent Rainey face planting down. Rainey turns over to look up to a couple more Sakayev right hands. The Dagestani fighter picks up a big victory. Antonio Carlos Jr. takes a page from the Jacare Souza book, takes down Tim Boetsch, is able to get on the back and find the rear naked choke. Carlos Jr. making his way to a top 15 ranking, could take that spot away from teammate Christoph Jocko, I believe. Now we're going to head on up to the main card. Michelle Waterson, as I correctly predicted, took a split decision victory from Courtney Casey, but not what I expected fully. Early on, great kicks from Waterson, a lot of movement, but the first round was won by Casey after some cracking right hands. The next 2 rounds, it'd be Waterson finding her takedowns, escaping arm bars, and using ground and pound to take the split decision victory. Israel Adesanya finds out he can't knock out everybody in MMA. The kickboxing event still showed off some great combinations, brutal leg kicks, fancy defense, some sharp elbows, but showed a lack late in his takedown defense. Marvin Vettori had some success. The refs, the judges, get it wrong in calling it a split decision. Definitely unanimous for Adesanya, but definitely some wrestling needs to be worked on. Alex Oliveira forces Carlos Condit into a brawl and a grappling match in the co-main event. Oliveira almost succumbs to the rear naked choke in the waning moments of the first round, but did not. He catches a Carlos Condit kick early in the second round, takes the fight back to the ground. Carlos then transitions and reverses, trying to get his own takedown, eats a couple elbows to the back of the head, is bleeding everywhere, eats an up kick, falls over, they get into a scramble, and Oliveira finds the guillotine choke. Condit tried to adjust a few times and fight the hands, but it was eventually too much. The Brazilian Cowboy picks up a victory and will probably earn himself a spot in the welterweight top 15 rankings. The main event, we expected it to be a fight of the year candidate. We expected it to be fight of the night heading into it, and the fight lived up to as expected. Justin Gaethje went back to his old WSOF style, pounding away at Dustin Poirier with leg kicks. But each time the leg kick would land, Poirier would fire back, would keep connecting with his strikes, would bloody up the left eye of Justin Gaethje early. You saw a lot of headhunting from Poirier, but once he started to mix in the body, you saw a little bit of the gas tank be taken away from Gaethje. Gaethje kept pounding away with those leg kicks, but a lack of head movement, continuing to just cover up and take abuse. Even when you have your hands on your head and you're defending, even though they're not landing clean, you're still feeling that percussiveness from the blow, and eventually Dustin Poirier would land a clean left cross counter off of a low kick, flurry, and find the finish. A big victory for the Diamond. This makes Dustin Poirier a title contender. Right now, with the lightweight division so crazy, you would have to say that either Eddie Alvarez or Dustin Poirier, I know a lot of people want them to fight each other, but realistically, one of those two guys should fight Khabib Nurmagomedov. The point in time for us to have a Dustin Poirier, Eddie Alvarez rematch passed us. It passed us as soon as they made Gaethje Alvarez and made Pettis Poirier. I know that we want to just give the title shot right away to Gaethje or to Poirier for beating Gaethje. What's better than beating him? Well, that Eddie Alvarez did it first. I don't know if the ship passed Eddie Alvarez by when the UFC offered him the short notice fight at UFC 223 to face Nurmagomedov. not doing the company a favor when Eddie Alvarez had already said he'd be ready for that night. He didn't expect Ferguson Nurmagomedov to make it. He was going to be in the fight. He knew that was his night in New York, and he didn't take advantage of the opportunity. That could lead us to an opportunity for Dustin Poirier, all just because of the Tony Ferguson knee injury and recovery time, and the fact that Conor McGregor will now have, obviously, many legal actions to deal with. Best idea, Nurmagomedov versus Alvarez. Poirier's ready in the background just in case, or vice versa. Everybody knew the fight was going to be exciting. The way that Justin Gaethje fights is reckless. And the commentary at night was totally correct. Gaethje, for all the high-level wrestling credentials he has, while he's hurt, there's no thought of a takedown, no thought of clinching. He was trying to bob, weave, cover up, stay alive, but eventually the swarming and the pressure, the continued shots that Poirier was landing, too much, the ref had to jump in. Interestingly enough, and I agree with him in this, Justin Gaethje has said following this fight that if you want to see him fight live, you should get out and do it soon, because he can't see himself fighting past 5 more fights. Taking on the toughest fighters in the world, the best fighters in the world, and going at it with a style to drag every fight into a brawl, with eating so many shots, with a lack of head movement and just covering up. Even if your hands are getting hit, but your hands are on your head and your brain are still getting rung around. Justin Gaethje is like the demolition man. It's all so much fun to see him compete, to see him get into these brawls, to see him stand in the pocket and trade recklessly. Punches, elbows, and he works the leg kicks. The defense has been lacking. Gaethje only knows one way to move, and that's forward. He is beating up his body, but it is a tremendous fun to watch. A one-of-a-kind fighter, Justin Gaethje. He says he only has 5 more fights left in him, and with his kind of style, I can't blame him. That may be the safe offer. What's next for Justin Gaethje? Ally Aquinta just had a tremendous fight last weekend. Let's give those guys 4 or 5 months to heal up, and that could be a main event on a fight night. Ally Aquinta versus Justin Gaethje. Sign me up for that one. Now let's 2 MMA events on tap this weekend. Friday night, LFA is in Sioux Falls, South Dakota for LFA 37. Flyweight titles are up for grabs. They're both vacant. The women's titles in the co-main event. Undefeated Colombian queen, head kick machine, Sabina Mazo takes on Colorado's Shannon Sin, Invicta FC, and Spartan Combat League vet. It's in the co-main event. Sin's going to have to try to use her veteranship, try to put pressure on Mazo, who has proven to be a very crafty striker. The main event, a pair of wrestlers battle for that male 125-pound flyweight title. South Dakota's own Sid Vicious Bice, who I had an opportunity to interview last week. That interview you can check out here on Cage Minds MMA Show, the YouTube channel. Takes on former Cuban Olympic wrestler Mikel Perez. Perez and Bice, both on 3-fight win streaks. Both wrestlers, both like to be on top, have that ground and pound, both well versed with the submissions. Talk to Bice, and he feels that the difference in this fight will come in the transitions and the fact that you can break Perez, as he found out from Perez's lone loss when Bice saw his teammate Adam Martinez pull off the stunning upset. Bice does have one loss on his record, a split decision to 20-fight UFC vet Pedro Nobre. So Bice feels more than confident in the striking and in the grappling. Perez has been showing excellent evolution in his striking. Being such a high-caliber wrestler, he's been able to use that athleticism and transition into the MMA game quite well, but has had some problems transitioning from the striking to the wrestling in those tweener moments. Same thing with the jiu-jitsu to the wrestling. That's where Bice feels like he can exploit. You also got 4-0 Dakota Bush and 3-0 Corey Davis, some top-notch prospects on that LFA 37 card. Saturday night, the UFC is in Atlantic City for UFC Fight Night 128. You got Fight Pass prelims, FS1 prelims, FS1 main card, main event, lightweights, Edson Barbosa, only man in UFC history to have 2 TKOs by leg kicks. Couple also highlight reel knockouts with a flying knee, with a spinning heel kick, taking on Kevin Lee, the Motown Phenom. Lee cannot get overconfident in his hands. He has got to take this to the ground. He has got to implement the Khabib Nurmagomedov ground and pound style. If he's able to, he'll win. If not, he'll end up looking like Gilbert Melendez, getting pounded away to the legs and worrying about those kicks coming up higher. The co-main event, Frankie Edgar, Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson looking to revenge the loss that he had a couple years ago against Edgar. Edgar been also good at lightweight and featherweight. I feel like this is too quick of a turnaround. I feel like this is a huge opportunity for Cub Swanson to sting and put down Edgar. Edgar coming back so quickly off of getting knocked out by Brian Ortega. If Edgar's going to have success in this fight, I feel it's going to be off of his wrestling and having to put Swanson on his back. The main card also has Justin Willis, American Kickboxing Academy product, taking on Chase Sherwin. I got to go with the better wrestler in this one. I got to go with Willis, who has been showing some very good striking, has a great wrestling background. If he's not able to put Sherwin on the ground, Sherwin will eat him up with his combinations and leg kicks. David Branch versus Thiago Santos. Santos has got to be able to knock Branch out. Branch will probably be wanting to work off of his jab, get on the inside, clinch, drop, and put Santos on his back. If this one goes to the ground, Branch has a gigantic advantage. While standing, Santos has a slight advantage like David Branch in that one. Aljamain Sterling is in his home state, and he's taking on an undefeated Welshman, Brett Johns. Brett Johns caught that rolling calf crusher on Joe Soto. The Pikey is the real deal, has some nasty striking. Sterling is the more athletic fighter. Can he transition and use that hometown crowd or that home state energy, that fan base behind him, and can that propel Sterling to the victory? He has the more credential wrestling backgrounds, but Johns has just been so effective. A judo black belt who has put many guys in a world of hurt. Another fight that I'm really looking forward. There's a couple fighters on this card that I think are really going to have some opportunities to shine on here. Daniel Hooker versus Jim Miller. A big opportunity for the New Zealander against a tough-known veteran. Magomed Bibulatov came in very hyped to the UFC. Suffered a knockout loss in his last fight against John Moraga. I believe he has a huge opportunity to bounce back against Yuto Sasaki. Siar Bahar Dazada has been putting out some scary training footage. He's taking on Luan Changas. Look for Bahar Dazada to try to knock out Changas, who's going to be consistently looking for the takedowns. Aspen Ladd, undefeated at 6-0, taking on well-known vet Leslie Smith. I believe in Ladd. I believe in that she's going to make a statement here, and a young contender in that bantamweight division. Seeing her grow through Invicta, someone to keep an eye on. Aspen Ladd. LFA champion Ricky Simone's going to make his Octagon debut. It's on short notice against Merab Dagashvili. Even on short notice, Simone has looked to be so sharp in his last 2 fights, so well versed. I look for that former LFA champion to have a spectacular Octagon debut. So LFA and UFC this weekend. Taking a look at the local scene. This Saturday night, myself and Gomez Photoworks will be at Club La Sierra in Hobbs as School of Hard Knocks Promotions presents Havoc and Hobbs 7, headlined by Victor War Dog Hernandez against Derek Rage Pettis. That one's going to be furious. I don't expect it to go long, and I expect somebody to get submitted. The following weekend, Force of One Fighting Championships, Art of War, Warriors Path Fight to the End in Clovis. May 4th, LFA 39 is just a little bit north of us in Valley, Colorado. You have May 5th, Genesis MMA has a big event in Pueblo, Colorado. You have May 12th, double boxing events here In New Mexico, we have Chaos and Clovis 2 presented by School of Hard Knocks Promotions. And then at Buffalo Thunder Resort and Casino, you have Holmes Boxing, Night of Fury, Antonio Toe Martinez, along with the professional boxing debuts of Maurice the Hulk Jackson and Steve Mean Machine Garcia. There's still a rumor for early June that there will be an announcement of a Jackson Wink Fight Night. June 16th, it has been announced, Wrecking Crew Promotions will have their first boxing event at Athletic Casino. The Etrisco Kid, Fidel Maldonado Jr., Brian Labala Mendoza, Matthew Diamond Boy Griego, all fighting for WBC titles. Jordan Garcia and Lorenzo Benavidez both also announced for that card. June 23rd, Legacy Boxing Promotions, Route to Glory, Bad Blood, that's been announced. New Mexico State titles, 2 of them on the line. The co-main event, the rematch, the Bad Blood, Mike Alderete and Mad Max Heyman. The main event, Josh Pitbull Torres, former WBC title holder, taking on Christian El Puma Cabral, a fight that New Mexico fight fans have been looking forward to for about 4 years now. Then we go to June 30th, where there's a double MMA dip that night here in the land of enchantment. American Fight League Southwest Brawl 8 at the Las Cruces Convention Center in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and Jackson's MMA Series the same night will be back at the Buffalo Thunder Resort and Casino. Also on tap, it looks like September 14th. It's a little ways out, but American Fight League has announced Clash of the Titans 3 for the Holloman Air Force Base. It's going to be a busy summer of combat sports. Keep up with all of it at CageMinds.com. And as expected, coming out of UFC on Fox 29, Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje, the front runner for Fight of the Year. Thanks for tuning in this week. This has been Cage Minds Uncensored with Micah Frankel. Keep up with us. Twitter and Instagram is at Cage Minds MMA. Facebook is Cage Minds Combat Sports News. CageMinds.com all the time. Thanks for listening.